So my talk this evening is titled, No Giving Up and No End to Giving Up. The Dharma of the Shawshank Redemption. How many of you have seen the movie The Shawshank Redemption? Not everyone. I didn't expect everyone to, so I'll give some synopsis as we go. Last week, Sensei was talking about the importance of sadhana, so a dedicated, regular devotion and commitment to practice in various forms, which for us includes practice with Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, daily, weekly, monthly, and as a way of studying the self and becoming intimate with our life and realizing the Buddha way. And it got me thinking, this regular devotion and commitment got me thinking about great faith and great determination. And that's what led me to think about the movie, The Shawshank Redemption. So, spoiler alert for those who haven't seen it, I'm going to give the whole movie away. But it came out in 1994, so it's been 32 years.
Not a lot of time.
Yeah, and it's also, even if you know what happens, it's completely worth it. I've watched it many times, and I don't tend to rewatch films. So just very briefly, so it stars Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman. Tim Robbins plays a character named Andy Dufresne, who is in Shawshank Redemption. Shawshank is a federal prison. I think it's set in Ohio. And he's been falsely accused and imprisoned for life, and isn't able to find his way out of that. And one of the men who's also imprisoned with him is Morgan Freeman's character named Red, and they become very close, and their path is very intertwined. But Tim Robbins' character, Andy Dufresne, so it's 27 years that he's imprisoned in the course of the film, and it kind of goes over those decades until he eventually escapes. That's spoiler alert number one. He does escape. And throughout, a big piece of the film is that he never loses faith in himself, in his humanity, in the humanity of the others that are with him, despite years, decades of imprisonment and really horrible conditions and treatment by the prison wardens. The way that he escapes is for those 27 years, and you're not told this until the very end, but through that whole time, he's tapping away at the wall behind a poster that he has in his cell of Rita Hayworth, who's like an old movie star, old-time movie star. And but nobody knows it, and then, until the very end, when you realize he's gone, and they discover that he's been tapping away for over 2 decades in order to open up a hole that is big enough for him to break through. But even when he passes through the hole, then actually there's another part of his escape, and he has to crawl through what Red calls a river of shit. And it's 500 yards of the sewage line from the prison that he has to crawl through. And 500 yards is 5 football fields of shit and piss that he gets through. And there's this amazing scene when he finally gets through, and it's the dark of night, and he comes out into this creek where all the shit and piss is going into. And he comes out into this dark night, and it's just a torrential downpour, and he's just like, ah! And he's free. He's out. And then there's a whole, thing about what he does after and how Red comes eventually to meet him. But that 27 years of tapping away and then crawling through 5 football fields worth of shit. So Zen can kind of be like that sometimes. More often it's the first part. It's the tapping away, the patience, the persistence, doing our best not to get distracted by our doubts or our frustrations or our opinions about when we're going to get through. And takes a lot of determination to keep going. In Zen, there's this really weird twist where we're told to let go of any goal or any attainment of freedom, but yet we talk about this freedom and liberation all the time, and we're told to keep going. Right? Where are we going? What is this place that we're trying to get to? In the identity of relative and absolute, we chant, if you do not see the way, you do not see it even as you walk on it. When you walk the way, it is not near, it is not far. But if you are deluded, you are mountains and rivers away from it. I respectfully say to those who wish to be enlightened, do not waste your time by night or day. How many of you, when you first chanted that, were like, what? Okay, it's here, but like if I can't see it, it's mountains and rivers away from it. Don't waste my time. Those lines continue to baffle me, and I think I'm not supposed to be able to understand them here. But that's just an example of how demanding Zen practice can be. It's a pretty radical path. I know that all of us, I'm guessing, I've only just met you, but likely in some form all of us have faced confusion and frustration on our spiritual path in some form, and struggled with our doubts or our fears. And then there's just navigating schedules and commitments as lay practitioners, right? Or physical issues, pain, discomfort, or deep, deep emotional karma stuff, right? The literal translation of dukkha, which is what we call suffering, the Sanskrit word, is a stuck axle wheel. Stuck axle wheel. And I don't know about you, but I can get myself all wrapped around a bunch of wheels, particularly around my practice. I can have all kinds of ideas and opinions and judgments and doubts about where I'm supposed to be in it and what's supposed to be happening. And I do my best to let go of it, but sometimes I can get wrapped up around it again. And I have a confession to make, which is a really weird one to make from up here. I have almost totally quit Zen practice dozens of times, relatively recently even. But when I first took Jukai and received the Buddha's vows, and I got my Rakusu and my Dharma name, we were at a retreat out at Great Mountain Zen Center. That very weekend I went in to Dokusan and I told Sensei, I think I feel like I want to give this back. I don't feel like my practice is worthy of this. I don't feel like I'm ready. And I asked him, has anybody ever given Rakusu back? Is that a thing? And he said, no, not that he knew of. And he said he wouldn't accept it if I attempted. And since then, I've had other times where I'm like, I'm just going to leave it on his doorstep. I know where he lives. I'm going to leave it there, my practice leader pin, and he'll know what it means. And I haven't, but it's gotten that challenging at times. And I think it's maybe helpful for people to hear that. In a recent talk, might have even been last week, it's either a session or last week, he mentioned that the greater the delusion, often the greater the awakening. So this gives me great heart. If you're ever caught in your own self-doubt, I hope you will take some comfort in that. I've held on to that with all my might at times. Like, okay, this is the path. And eventually I found it to be true what Sensei has also said, that going into the doubts, into the confusion, into the frustration is where we wake up. They are not barriers to awakening, they are the path of awakening, even though it might not feel that way. Dogen himself said, if one falls down because of the ground, one gets up because of the ground. And the most important thing above all is to keep going. To not give up on this practice, on realizing my own Buddha nature, no matter what. So back to Andy and Shawshank. While he was tapping away all those years, Andy didn't tell anyone what he was doing, not even Red. He just did it. Imagine how exciting it probably was when he first got a little glimpse of light coming through the concrete and was like, oh my God, I'm through. At least a little bit. But he didn't tell anyone. He just kept going. And Zen is a little bit like this, too. We're all each on our own path, working on our own koans, facing ourselves on the cushion, maybe having breakthroughs, maybe not, going into Dokusan, one tap at a time. But we do have a teacher who encourages us and guides us. And we have a whole Sangha, it's got chills, tapping away right alongside and inspiring us to keep going. I'm guessing I'm not the only one who has noticed that Jodo sits every period, both periods, Monday through Friday, without fail. And I know when I log on that you're going to be there, unless you're out of town. And it's remarkable, and it inspires me, and encourages me when I don't or can't. I'm like, oh man, I know Jodo's there tapping away. And Gendo and Joe and Fugetsu flew in from both coasts to join in sesshin. And two of them camped with us, just amazing. And Gakyo prepared meal plans for weeks before sesshin, and then with Susan cooked for all of us throughout the day for 5 days. I counted it up, 252 meals they prepared. 252 meals in 5 days. And Shoshin, every time she strikes that Han at Willow Farm to call us to practice. Myoshin showing up every Monday without fail. 50 weeks a year. I'll give you a couple that I know that you're family. For years now to run the Zoom. Not to mention all the bells and chickens and willow trees and grasses and birds and everything that's calling us to practice all the time. It's astonishing, really, how supported we are by everyone and everything in its own way, saying, keep going. We're in this together. Don't give up. In my bus, I have a statue of Avalokiteshvara. She's the Bodhisattva of compassion. And it's on a little shelf right above the driver's seat where I see it all the time, no matter where I am in the bus. And this statue, she sits on a turtle, a giant turtle that's crawling across these rocks. And I love this. The statue means so much to me because it represents the patience of compassion. No matter how long it takes, no matter how quickly or slowly, step by step, Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva will keep going to save all beings. I will keep going to save all beings. Last week in our discussion, I shared that it's my Bodhisattva vows that help me to keep going. And I recommend when you chant them, and we'll chant them at the end of tonight, to really pay attention to what you're invoking. To really mean it. Numberless creations I vow to receive. Inexhaustible delusions I vow to dissolve. Omnipresent Dharma gates I vow to experience. Unsurpassable enlightened way I vow to manifest. Numberless, inexhaustible, omnipresent, unsurpassable. These vows are impossible. We talk about this often. But every time I come across someone that I find difficult or annoying or infuriating, I do my best to receive them. Every time I come across yet another delusion, 800 million a day, I vow to dissolve it. Every Dharma gate, I do my best to experience, no matter what. This unsurpassable enlightened way, I will do my best to manifest. And then there's my own personal version, simply a vow that I made when I left on my pilgrimage, to do my best to meet everyone and everything with an open heart. And as I've shared in other talks, sometimes the person I have the hardest time receiving or meeting with an open heart is myself. It's often that gets me wrapped around the stuck axle wheel. It feels like that's a barrier, and then I continue to have to enter into it, but it's truly like crawling through 500 yards of piss and shit. And yet, I keep going. So I've been encouraged lately by this book, and even the title, In This Body, in This Lifetime. It just came out last year. It's the awakening stories of 30 Japanese Soto Zen women in post-war Japan. So mid-40s, late 40s. This was when women were not allowed to be transmitted even, but there was one woman, this teacher, Sozen Nagasawa Niroshi, a woman, nun, who had received a transmission and taught these women. And these are amazing stories, similar to if you've read The Three Pillars of Zen. There's some stories in there about people coming to their awakening experiences. So this is that, but all women. And I'll read just a little bit of one. This is Reverend Etsujo Ayuki, A Beautiful Death. I'm just going to read a little excerpt. During my second and third sesshin, the depth of my karma showed itself to the most detestable degree, and I was single-mindedly repenting. The fifth and sixth times, the path was getting increasingly steeper. I was attacked by a feeling that Mu was becoming more and more distant from me, and many times I broke down in tears in front of the Buddha. And she says, if I'm unable to do this, that means I've been abandoned by my ancestors. But I thought, I can do it. Didn't Shakyamuni Buddha say that even if one were to step off this earth, there is no one who can step off this path? So she goes on for several pages of many sessions and frustrations. And then eventually, at a later retreat, as she says, at 7 p.m., Zazen started. And soon after that, the Dokusan bell rang. How grateful I was. I jumped up and ran to the Dokusan line, and in that instant I grabbed the wooden hammer. I realized I broke through, both hitting the bell and standing up. Today I started a new life as a baby Tathagata, and I felt limitless gratitude. I pray that we will walk the path of the Buddhas and ancestors together. Walking as Zen, sitting as Zen, speaking or silent, active or still, the essence is at peace. How wonderful, the great Buddha Dharma is ever deeper. Let's walk the path of actual practice, heading toward the summit, holding onto the rope of true Dharma, making our steps ever firm. So like Andy, she didn't give up. And so far, none of us have either. We're all here. Though some people do step away from Zen practice, sometimes for years, for lots of different reasons. But I came across this great piece of writing by teacher Zenkei Elliston Roshi, and he asked, can you ever really quit Zen? He says the idea that we begin Zen practice at some specific point in time is similar to the way we think about the concept of conception. So if we examine the idea of conception, how a human being comes into this world, if we look at it closely, we actually find it's impossible to pinpoint exactly when our life began. Where is the exact moment when something new came into the universe? But if you can convince yourself that there's an exact moment of birth, then you are probably also convinced that there's an exact moment of death and nothing that continues. But both are actually subject of intense politicized debates, as we know, both in the medical profession and in spiritual traditions. So likewise, he says, if you can convince yourself that there was a specific time at which you began your spiritual training, your Zen practice, then you can also convince yourself that there can be a specific time when you can quit. But really, no one knows for sure where any of it begins. And I love this. It's like if they say Zen is the practice of reality, can any of us really quit Zen? Like, if you do not see the way, you do not see it even as you walk on it, right? But I know for myself there was something calling me toward Zen as a practice long before I became aware of it. Was there a specific starting point? I can't pinpoint it. The more important question, perhaps, is once I'm aware that there is a path of awakening, of liberation, what happens when I turn away from it? If I stop tapping on that wall and give in to my doubts or confusion. This is what happened to some of the inmates, the other inmates in Shawshank. They really gave in to the institutionalization that they were experiencing, the samsara that they were experiencing. And there's one even named Brooks, some of you might remember, again I get chills. He got out eventually. He was, it's not discharged, but whatever it is, when he was released and went and tried to live life. And he couldn't do it. It was too difficult. His mind was still imprisoned and he didn't make it. I don't think I can quit tapping at this point. I think it's pretty clear the evidence that this has given me in my life. And I can remember telling Sensei at one point that it's just like breathing to me. Like, can I quit breathing? Like for like maybe 70 seconds. But I can't quit tapping. And even when someone leaves formal Zen practice, even for a while, often they do come back, maybe in a different time, era of their life. I remember Sensei sharing a story once about someone he knew who left for 20 years, but then when he came back, he did say that he wished he had come back sooner. But either way, just know the cushion is always waiting for you. It's always here. In recovery, 12-step recovery, we have a saying that says, don't quit before the miracle happens. Right? No matter how long it takes. But there's an even deeper message in the story of the Shawshank Redemption, in addition to Andy's great determination. Throughout the movie, it becomes clear that Andy is already free. You might remember, if you've seen it, there are two really key scenes in the movie. One is, so Andy in his pre-imprisonment life was an accountant, and he's a whiz with numbers and books. And he ends up doing books for like the warden and some of the guards and all that. And it's a little bit of how he makes his way through those 27 years. But in one case, he does the books for a guard, and the guard, to like repay him for that, he's like, what can I do for you? And he said, the next time we're on our big work crew out in the heat, I just want you to give 3 beers to each of the guys. I just want us to be able to drink our beers under the sun. And there's this beautiful scene where they're all like kicked back and their legs up on rocks and they're drinking beer under the sun. And the line in the movie says they sit together in the sun feeling like lords of all creation. And then there's another scene where he I don't remember how, but he locks the warden in the warden's office, and there's a record player, and he plays this aria from Mozart, and he blasts it on the prison loudspeakers, and it goes through the whole prison, and everybody just stops to listen. I'll read Red's description. I have no idea to this day what those two Italian ladies were singing about. Truth is, I don't want to know. Some things are best left unsaid. I'd like to think they were singing about something so beautiful it can't be expressed in words and makes your heart ache because of it. I tell you, those voices soared higher and farther than anybody in a gray place dares to dream. It was like some beautiful bird flapped into our drab little cage and made those walls dissolve away. And for the briefest of moments, every last man in Shawshank felt free. I think those were Andy's Dharma talks. He knew he was free, no matter how imprisoned he was, and he wanted everyone else to know that they were free too. This is great faith to me. The way I see it, it is that insight that then allowed him to let go of everything else. Any frustration he might have felt at being falsely imprisoned, 27 years of hard labor, impatience to escape as soon as possible, not succumbing to bitterness, resentment, or self-pity. He remembered who he was, a free man, and he found ways to live the life of a free man, even in the midst of his imprisonment, in the midst of his samsara. And the sensei reminded me during our discussion last week, Norman Fisher taught that the Bodhisattva doesn't care much what happens to them. They have a bigger calling. I believe it was this faith that gave him the strength to work patiently, diligently, with great determination toward actual freedom, no matter what. To not be distracted by his circumstances. So one of the joys of my practice with One Body Sangha is getting to look for poems to read for the full moon sits. And Eshin, I know, shares this with me too. And recently I came across this one. It's called Huining's Pond. And briefly, Huining is the sixth patriarch of Zen Buddhism. And he came from very lowly beginnings. He was illiterate. He was, I think, a firewood seller, they say. And then he heard someone recite the Diamond Sutra. And he was like, what's that? What's that? And he went out seeking a teacher. And ended up at the monastery of the fifth patriarch and was assigned to work in the kitchen, like pounding rice, they say. So, you think maybe not necessarily on a path of being one of the senior students. But there was a point where the fifth patriarch asked for people to submit a verse showing their understanding. And one of the senior students wrote a poem, the head monk, kind of comparing the mind to a bright mirror that must be cleaned of dust, which is often what we do, right? This is our great determination to clean and clear whatever's getting in the way. Huining, who remember was illiterate, he had to ask someone to write this for him, wrote his own poem anonymously and said, "There is no Bodhi tree. The bright mirror has no stand. Fundamentally, there's not a single thing. Where could dust alight?" Where could dust alight? And eventually the fifth patriarch learned who it was and kind of secretly passed him the robe and transmission and told him to quick run before all the senior monks come after him because they're going to be upset. But that's a whole other story. So this is Huining's Pond. This poem is by another equally strong Dharma teacher named Muso Soseki. And he says, "The Dharma spring of the sixth patriarch has never run dry. It is flowing even now. A single drop has fallen and spread far and deep. Don't be caught by the decorations at the edge and the wall around it. In the dead of night, the moonlight strikes the middle of the pond. Don't be caught by the decorations at the edge and the wall around it. When I'm honest with myself, I can see that the doubts about myself, ideas about my practice, about whether I'm deluded or enlightened, are all just decorations arising out of my own opinions, preferences, or fears. But the Dharma spring of the sixth patriarch has never run dry. It is flowing even now. In the dead of night, the moonlight strikes the middle of the pond. So simple, so clear. If you do not see the way, you do not see it even as you walk on it. When you walk the way, it is not near, it is not far. Years ago, when we used to do the book club up at Schoen's house and at Seiju and Bruce's, I don't even remember the book we were doing, maybe it was Infinite Circle, but Sensei was there, and there was some passage about a monk having some enlightenment, awakening experience, great realization after like 15 years of really hard practice. And Sensei asked something to the group, I don't even know if he'll remember this, asked something to the group about that realization. And I said, kind of offhand, I was like, no, ask me in 15 years, I'll get back to you. And Sensei shot back, or it could be tomorrow. I have never forgotten that. Whatever ideas I had about how long it might take, at least 15 years, right? They were just cut in a single moment with those turning words. It could be tomorrow. It could be today. Or right now. It's that simple. And that available. No gap. But we can make things so complicated. Right? I certainly do. It's so easy to get caught in my circumstances. And don't get me wrong, they can be very real. There's a lot of karmic stuff working through this body-mind, and I keep tapping away at it, right? But I can also kind of hold tight to like, oh, this is going to get in the way. Am I too broken? I'm not able. Like the monkey, the raccoon, holding on to that shiny thing, which again, it's just an idea. As long as she's holding on, she'll never be free. Where is it that I'm fighting with my life, arguing with reality, holding on to some idea of what my life or my practice is supposed to be, getting caught in the decorations at the edge and the wall around it? Andy Dufresne knew he was already free. And in this confidence, in this faith, trusting this completely, he was able to give up his preferences, his ideas, his opinions, and find his way to actual freedom. Letting go of any fear of how long it might take, his desire that it happen quickly, that it happen now, his frustration at being imprisoned, his disgust about swimming through shit. He let go of all of that, and countless other things too, I'm sure. So far, there seems to be no end to letting go for me. I cried my way through session, often in prostration. My experience is that even the big shifts, even when they say, letting go of attachment to self, dropping off body and mind, there will always be continuous practice. And this is a little bit where the Shawshank story metaphor breaks down. So there is no triumphant emerging from the shit. We aren't free from it. That implies there's a separate me and it, shit, to be free from. Yeah. But we can be free in it. In every moment, if I'm paying attention, I can see where I'm holding on to ideas, attachments, holding my nose, preferences, opinions, my need to control, or rather, my need for the illusion of control. Sometimes embarrassingly so. And I can see how those create separation. They create a gap. And suddenly I'm mountains and rivers away from it. Most of all, every one of those gets in the way of my open-heartedness and my connection with you. So I think our vows are about taking care of that gap. To let go as best as I'm able and open my heart again and again, over and over, open, open, open. Joko Beck wrote the following interpretation of the Four Noble Truths. Caught in the self-centered dream, only suffering. Holding to self-centered thoughts, exactly the dream. Each moment, life as it is, the only teacher, being just this moment, compassion's way. So simple. Dharma teacher Flint Sparks says, how simple are you willing to let this be? 15 years? 500 miles of shit? Or right now? The Dharma spring of the sixth patriarch has never run dry. It is flowing even now. A single drop has fallen and spread far and deep. Don't be caught by the decorations at the edge and the wall around it. In the dead of night, the moonlight strikes the middle of the pond. One day I'm caught in the self-centered dream, the drama, holding to self-centered thoughts wrapped around the axle. And the next, being just this moment, compassion's way. I get up in the morning, I make a cup of coffee, I join you all online for morning sitting. I bow to my teacher, I say my vows, and I take care of whatever's needed, noticing, not if, but when I'm caught by ideas, opinions, preferences, and I let go again and again and again. So simple. No giving up, and no end to giving up. And then there's the end of the Heart Sutra we chant, and thus the Bodhisattva lives, prajna paramita, with no hindrance in the mind, no hindrance, therefore no fear, far beyond deluded thoughts. This is nirvana. Gate gate paragate, parasamgate bodhisvaha, which translates as gone, gone, gone beyond, gone completely beyond. Where are we going? How do we do that? Keep going.